Yes, brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the support. I do appreciate a lot. Now, Ham Kiggundu donated 530 million Ugandan shillings, which is really interesting. And I would like to thank him for that gesture. But during his donation, there are a few things that were off. And it raises so many questions. Questions that I'm going to try to answer today, and maybe you also can come up with your own understanding of the situation. But first, let us look at the story from the Nile Post, whereby what happened when Ham Kiggundu took this donation. Because most of us see these donations, but we don't know what actually takes place. Who receives them? How are the donations being used? And all this kind of stuff. Because most of them are actually publicity stunts that these people do. You see, for example, they can say that Bill Gates donated all his money to charity. But they are not donating money to charity. Most of these people are evading taxes. Now, in Uganda, it is more of celebrity-ish and publicity stunt-ish kind of thing whenever they take money. Now, for any person, I have no respect. I don't care whatever money you have, especially if you're coming from Uganda, whereby your source of wealth is questionable and is unknown. It raises so many red flags when I see individuals who come out with money like Ham did. I had respect, a wee bit of respect for him. But when he came out and displayed 530 million Ugandan shillings, it was quite interesting for me. That I wouldn't have thought that a tycoon of his caliber, who is not a socialite, could do such a thing. Now that raised the first red flag. Going into the story, on Friday afternoon, city businessman Ham Kiggundu, popularly known as Ham, donated 530 million to the COVID task force. The money, according to the businessman, was meant to facilitate the purchase of COVID vaccines for Ugandans. The money was received by the Prime Minister, Nabanja, who is the chairperson of the task force at the office of the Prime Minister. However, during the handover, Ham, as is commonly known, told the meeting that he had created an account to which money should go, as well as other contributions by the private sector. Red flag number 2. So Ham had created an account to which the money should go, as well as other contributions from the private sector. So literally, he had donated the money, withdrawn it from the bank, but then created another account where this money should be put, as well as other donations. Do you get what I'm saying? Or do you understand? Or do you get what I'm? Do you really understand what I'm saying? Or do you get? I mean, this is. Come on. It is just like. Even Sudiru cannot do that. Given that he owned a bank, he cannot say that, look here guys, I'm going to donate to you 1 million Ugandan shillings, but then all the other donations that you're supposed to get are supposed to be put into my bank. So Ham had created his own private account where all COVID donations from rich businessmen in Uganda should put their funds. Now, let me tell you one thing about rich men in Uganda. Now, Ham is not one of those people that are considered rich. Because the rich people of Uganda, most of the rich guys who are humble, you don't even see them in public. And I don't believe that most of the rich men in Uganda really have respect for people who flout their wealth and who flout their money like Ham. We have seen people like Mike Ezra. I will come to those ones, the Brian Whites, as well as the Medicine Tongos and all these people. But this is a second red flag. Creating an account where the money should go, as well as other contributions by the private sector. Quote, we have created an account with Stanbic Bank where Dr. Musenero will be signatory and a few other members that government choose for this particular fund. Other private members may come and we support government. The money will go directly to this account to contribute towards the purchase of the vaccines. Now, I don't know if Mr. Ham is aware that through the Ugandan taxpayer, money that is amounting to 18 billion Ugandan shillings was released and the Ministry of Health stole the money from the National Medical Stores, which was responsible to purchase the vaccines from Serum Institute in India. They have not accounted for that money. They have not bought a single vaccine. And yet, here is a private individual coming out to collect money and start up a fundraising to buy vaccines for Uganda. Now, if Ham is buying vaccines, no problem. I have no problem. If he contributes money to buy vaccines, I completely have no problem about that. But what I don't understand, why would Ham create a private fund or a private account of which he wanted his own money that he had donated to go to? That's a very big red flag. Now, and also, we support the government. Okay. But we have been supporting the government all this time. We have been paying taxes. People have been doing whatever they can in order to make sure that they follow SOPs and all this kind of stuff. So why would you put money to vaccines when doctors are not being paid? Yes, we need money for vaccines, but vaccines are already being catered for. We are receiving donations for vaccines. We are donations for this and that. But doctors are dying. 16 doctors were lost in the space of I think 2 weeks. 16 doctors. They have families. They are not being catered for. No one thinks about them. They are paid just $1 per day in terms of allowance for extra caution and all this kind of thing. However, Nabanja did not welcome the Prime Minister, did not welcome the idea, and insisted that the money can only go to an account earlier opened up by government, as Museveni had directed. So Ham comes with his own private account that he is not very sure of the Prime Minister's account, because he thinks that they will steal his money. So he donates the money, but with his own private account. But then Nabanja says, no, I will take the money, but I also have our own private account. So the question was, where should the money go? Quote, in fact, ministers are not allowed to be signatories to those accounts, the Prime Minister guided. Now, according to sources at the Office of the Prime Minister, businessman Emmanuel Katongole, who is a member of the task force, advised Musenero, that is, I think, the state minister for whatever, Musenero, against being a signatory to any bank account as the same would land her in problems. Now, Musenero is a very educated lady. She's a microbiologist and a doctor. Not doctor as in doctor to inequality, but doctor as doctor, real doctor, microbiologist. And because when you look her up, she's really one of the most educated Ugandans in that field. So Musenero, when Ham approached him, he's like, oh yeah, I will sign. Yes, in fact, we need that private fund. Oh yeah, I will do it. I will do as you say. So Ham, being witty and cunning, put Musenero into the pockets. So it had to take Nabanja to advise Musenero that prime ministers are not supposed to be signatories to bank accounts. Which is really interesting. Anyway, another source told this website that later Nabanja directed the staff at the office of the Prime Minister to deposit the money in the bank before she went for other meetings that lasted until 6 p.m. late in the evening. However, on return around 6 p.m., Nabanja was astonished to learn that the money had not been banked. Quote, when she requested why the money had not been banked, the staff told her that it was late and that the banks had already been closed, the source told the Nile Post. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister was also astonished to learn that the businessman Ham was still around the office of the Prime Minister despite having donated the money almost 4 hours back. Now, I know so many rich people in this world. Not personally, but I've not met any rich people. But I know so many rich people. And trust me, for Ham to donate money and languishing around the offices of the Prime Minister, the cleaners leave, everyone almost is leaving. But we have this so-called young billionaire who is not so busy waiting for a small receipt. Now, that is the second flag that this guy is not as rich as he says, or else the money is not his. The Prime Minister was astonished to learn that the businessman Ham was still around the office of the Prime Minister despite having donated money. Now, I don't think Sudhir, okay, I would regard Sudhir as rich. I don't think Sudhir, even Rajiv, would be there after donating money, languishing. They have assistants. So the young billionaire Ham doesn't have an assistant to chase for the receipt or to tell Nabanja to send her the receipt. What was going on here? I don't understand. Wavamuno, you find her seated at the office of the Prime Minister waiting for a small receipt. The cameras have already captured the moment. The money has already been taken. And then you are waiting for a receipt. A billionaire waiting for a receipt. It's not that he has donated $1 million, 530 million Ugandan shillings. That is not even 100. I mean, that is like, what, 150, 200, maybe say $200,000, right? And that's around 100,000 pounds. That's not a lot of money, especially for the caliber of a billionaire that he claims he is, waiting for a small receipt. Because, like, this guy, they show that he has done investments that are worth 100 billions. He has cases that are in 80 billions. And then he's waiting for a small receipt. When everyone has left, everyone has greeted him, everyone has said hi, the cleaners have said hi, they even get tired of having a conversation with him. I don't know, maybe he was selling his book. He has a book where he tells people to reason and also how to be successful and how to make money. I know I would like to make money in this world, but not in the Ham way. On inquiring, Nabanja was told that the business was waiting for documentation from her to confirm receipt of the money, prompting her to order her staff to do it. When the document was brought, quote, for her to sign, it indicated that the Prime Minister had received the money, but that she had decided that the money be kept in her office. Another source on the website. Ham, really, come on. Okay, when the document was brought for her to sign, that is the Prime Minister, it indicated that the Prime Minister had received the money, but that she had decided to keep the money in her office, not in the bank. Another source told the website. It is said that on seeing the document, Nabanja fumed and suspected foul play from some of her staff. She refused to sign the document. Well, that is good. So did Ham get his receipt? I'm not sure. But is it Ham that was telling the people, the staff members, on what to write, on where the money is being kept? Who is using Ham? It's really interesting. The source told this website that later the Prime Minister called the manager of Stanbic Bank's Garden City branch, who asked her to take the money to the bank. Meanwhile, as Nabanja prepared to take the money to the bank, an unknown bullion van arrived, prompting her to suspect something was amiss. She then directed her security to use her own vehicle to take the money to the bank, having earlier informed the manager at Garden City. The 530 million was later banked. When contacted for a comment on the matter, Nabanja confirmed banking the money herself but didn't provide details of the circumstances leading to such a move. Quote, I took the money myself to the bank at Garden City around 6 p.m., she said on the phone before she hung up. Now that's quite interesting. The drama that was involved in this donation of just 500 million Ugandan shillings. Now I just wonder if at all Ham had donated $1 billion, what would he have done? Okay, now a few things about Ham. But before that, let us first look at this individual. When I came of age, at around, okay, when I started understanding rich people, maybe as I was around, 12 years old, this gentleman, I don't know if you people remember him, that guy is called Mike Ezra. Now, Mike Ezra is a very interesting guy. He's the first person that I've ever seen assembling money and showing off. They said this amounted to $3 million. Now, this other guy, that one is called Brian White. He also assembled money. They say it is 2 billion. That's what they said. And right now, we all know what happened to this guy. We also know what happened to Mike Ezra. he all of a sudden vanished from the face of the earth. Last time we heard he was caught in Kenya trying to scam people. Brian White has had rape allegations, he has had so many problems, and he was thrown in prison, murder charges, so many other things. Now, the problem is that those pictures look similar to this as well, where Ham is also parading money all over the place. Now, this is what is interesting, is that the gentleman has been having problems, quote unquote, with the DTB, whereby he borrowed money from Diamond Trust Bank in Kenya and refused to pay them. Diamond Trust Bank, by refusing to pay them, Ham had used the securities as the Kivubo Stadium as a security and some of his other investments. That is if you believe that they are his investments. Most of them had been taken to this by this bank. So he had a problem, and it actually created some bit of issues in the financial system in Uganda, whereby even the Bank of Uganda had to intervene in the case. Now, he's a person who has been doing some real estate, and what is interesting is that no one knows where the money comes from. He has so many buildings and all this kind of stuff. People just don't understand, and people are not ready to ask these questions. Now, for most of the people we have engaged with, and for those of you who can look him up, they say that he has companies in the UK, blah, blah, blah. But when you look at even the companies in the UK, they look more like shell companies. They're not companies that are really, really legit. They look more like shell companies. Now, this prompts a question that, is this money laundering or what? Now, what is interesting is the fact that this money was donated a few days after the IMF released COVID funds, 285 million out of the dollars, out of the 1 billion US dollars that was going, that had been given to Uganda by the IMF. Now, that is really interesting to see Ham now getting this money and donating it to COVID task force. Now, two things can explain such kind of stuff of people parading money. Number one, definitely number one, is money laundering. Nothing else. Because you have this money kept at home, or he has someone behind him, and they have stolen so many his puppet master or his handler. They have stolen a lot of COVID funds that they don't have where to keep the money. And maybe they don't want Museveni to also know about the money. So what do you do? Well, what you do is very simple. Get that money, take it to the office of the Prime Minister, donate it, and then create a private fund within Stanbic Bank, and then put that money, bank it once again. Because that's how you launder money. It is how you clean it up. You remember when I told you about the rich people in in the world? What they do is, they get money through these donations. And they say they have donated such and such an amount of money. So when they donate that amount of money, they get tax waivers. That money, donations are not, charity is not taxed. But in actual sense, what they are doing is, they are literally not even trying to help, because the biggest percentage of that money is not taxed. So they use these charities in order to clean it up and evade taxes in one way or the other. Now, for money launderers, they steal the money, and then, because you cannot just walk into a bank and bank 500 million. You know why? Because it will be flagged. The international financial systems all over the world, they will flag any deposits that are worth, I think, £10,000 or $10,000 or whatever. I think in Uganda it's 45 million Ugandan shilling. They will ask, where has this money come from? So what you do is simply just go out there and tell them that, okay, I've donated this money for charity, but I want this money to go to a private fund that I've created, and let the other people also bring that money, the donations they have to give on my private fund. So literally even stealing from other people. Ham Kiggundu, haven't you guys stolen enough money for COVID funds that you still need to steal more? Like you are saying right now, you're giving back to the community. We all know very well that the investments that this gentleman has, they are not his. because there is no correlation between his wealth, his background, and how he makes his money. Look here, he's a person who is in real estate. He's a person who is in the arcades and all this kind of stuff. For 1 year, people have not been paying money. People have not been paying money for his arcades. People have not been paying money for all his buildings because the money has not been there, because government has not been receiving funding, and because of COVID-19. His construction at Nachivo Stadium stalled. But now we are going to see the construction coming back again, because we have seen some funds coming in. He's the only person now who is doing now construction. He's back to construction. We appreciate or we applaud the gesture of donations. But when we look into the details, there is something sinister about these donations that is not clear. For a billionaire and a businessman to languish around the offices after donations and then waiting for a small receipt to say that I have received the money. Now, this doesn't mean that we can trust the office of the Prime Minister. And this doesn't mean that Ham was also doing his due diligence. What it means is that the entire system is in some sort of entanglement, whereby people within the system are fighting each other, by using their external puppets in order to destabilize their own system that they have created, or to fight to get more contracts, to get more money, and all this kind of stuff. So that's the best explanation on how to understand these donations from Ham Kiggundu. I'm so sorry, with all due respect. And now that I've started to look into him, I'm really going to look into him. Because it is really interesting for a person who has been saying that he has the richest, he has a very expensive car and all this kind of... I mean, how could you do such a thing? A rich person? I cannot fathom Mr. Wavamuno or these rich people, that's rich people that we know. Couldn't fathom them seeing them parading bills like that, like mafias, and then saying they have created private funds of which I've donated the money, but then I want to take my money. Well, it will not be me falling for that. That's not. I won't be part of that team to fall for that crap. Besides, I think Nabanja did a good job. I'll give credit where it's due. In all this, at least Nabanja did well to expose Ham Kiggundu. Although Nabanja is also part of their team. Either way, no Ugandan is going to benefit from this 530 million. Because Ham wanted to take this money back. He wanted to have his cake and eat it at the same time. Because he knew very well that the COVID-19 vaccines were catered for. Why donate for that purpose and not donate for something else? And is the office of the Prime Minister in charge of buying vaccines? Because you should have known better that it's not the office of the Prime Minister. It is either the National Medical Stores or the Ministry of Health. Why would they go for Nabanja? Because Nabanja is the weakest link, or she is a soft spot. But I think Nabanja jumped this hurdle. The next one is not going to be easy. Have a blessed one. Support the channel, comment, and share the video. Enjoy the rest of your day.